Shalom and greetings from Jerusalem, Jane. If you're in the safety of your home right now, walking around in America or Argentina or Sweden or, I don't know, Thailand, and you walk into your bedroom and the dirty socks of your husband is lying on the floor and it irritates you. Or if you walk into the hallway and you're nearly tripping over the backpack from your teenage children, girls who came home from school, and it irritates you. Or if you walk into the living room and your children are playing video games instead of doing their homework and it irritates you, let me tell you something. You should be grateful. You should be grateful that your husband is home and he can even throw dirty socks on the floor. You should be grateful that your teenage daughter can throw her backpack on the floor, or your 8-year-old boy is sitting in the living room playing video game. You should be grateful. Because that's not the situation here in Israel for many families. On the contrary, here, teenage girls were brutally raped by Hamas terrorists. Boys were brutally murdered by Hamas terrorists. Babies were burned alive by Hamas terrorists. Many parents is sitting today. They don't have their children because they were murdered. Many women don't have their husband next to them because they were brutally murdered. Husbands don't have their wives next to them because they were gang raped, mass raped by Hamas terrorists, and then they were murdered. Grandparents can't just pick up the phone and call their grandchildren and tell them grandma loves you, because grandma was brutally murdered by Hamas terrorists. Where are your family members? Do you know where your children are? Many people here in Israel, they don't know what is happening right now to their children because they are held hostage inside the Gaza Strip, and they have been for more than 50 days. Are they alive? Are they sleeping? Are they eating? Are they alone? What are the conditions? Well, we have had 4 days humanitarian pause, and Israel has had numerous young women, children, grandmothers, mothers being released from inside the Gaza Strip. Many of the people being released, the children being released, they are coming out being informed that mom was killed or dad was killed, or nearly half of the street, the children you were playing with on the street, were killed. They didn't know. Testimonies are coming out now from the people being held captive. Sleeping on the floor, sleeping on plastic chairs. There were no mattresses. There were no beds. There were barely any food, a little rice, a little pita bread, a little hummus, some canned goods. If you put all of that food together and that's all you eat, people had problems with constipation. One of the young girls who was released, Emily, she was only whispering, and her father was saying, honey, why don't you talk? Why are you only whispering? Because Hamas told us to be quiet. They were yelling at us if we were too loud. Emily came home with her hair full of lice. These people, young children, mothers, grandmothers, held hostage for nearly more than 50 days inside the Gaza Strip, was not allowed to take a shower for 50 days, just using a little bit of water to wash under their armpits. It came out that 2 of the elderly ladies, one of them had lost 25 kilos in less than 2 months Another one, I believe it was 15 kilos in less than 2 months. Everybody was malnourished. There was not enough food. The horror you can't imagine. Now it was coming out in one newspaper that some of them were held in cages. You can't fathom it. A young boy who was released yesterday told his family that Hamas forced him to watch the atrocities that they committed on October 7. If he started crying, they will just point a gun at his head. Can you imagine? He was the boy when he was in the Gaza Strip. He was paraded in the streets, and we saw that video of the innocent civilians were beating him while he was being paraded in the streets. Elma, 85-year-old grandmother, came out of Israel in the last second. She was taken straight to the hospital, and she's still fighting for her life. She didn't have the medicine that she needed. Her family said we were abandoned on October 7 when she was kidnapped. And then all the help organizations, the Red Cross, they completely ignored us. We went to the Red Cross several times and we said, here is the medication that she needs, desperately needs. And they were like, we can't help you, because Hamas didn't allow the Red Cross to come in, and frankly, the Red Cross didn't really push. The sexual assault, the sexual violence, mass rape towards women, the genitals was mutilated, their pelvises were broken, their bones was broken. So many women, young women, even teenagers, were sexually assaulted, was brutally raped. If you're with your family, if you can go out right now and kiss your husband, or you can kiss your children, no matter what they have done, you are blessed. If you're sitting in safety in your house, and you don't have to worry about rocket starts flying in, like they have been doing the entire 10 years that I've been living here in Israel, you are blessed. If you can take your car and just go to a supermarket and not worry about that when you're driving home you're going to be stoned, you are blessed. We have had so many terror attacks where innocent civilians are out driving in Judea and Samaria, and Palestinian terrorists are stoning their cars. Terror attacks in supermarket, people being butchered. This is a nation that is deeply traumatized, and so am I. I might have a Danish passport, but that's all. My heart and my soul and everything inside of me is intertwined with the Jewish people. There are still 160 hostages held inside the Gaza Strip. Every night when a new batch of hostages is being released, Hamas is making their disgusting, evil propaganda videos. Last night, they had 2 lines each on the side of the road with Hamas terrorists armed to the teeth. And then one by one, 2 by 2, they brought out these young women with their babies and children being paraded with armed terrorists walking next to them, being told to smile, being told to wave, keep waving, so they can show this propaganda. The same terrorists who brutally kidnapped them into the tunnels, the same terrorists who raped women on their streets, who murdered their grandparents. This is a nation that is broken, that is hurting, that is traumatizing, that is watching that after all of this happened to us, we still have to see hundreds and thousands of people in the streets screaming for our annihilations, For our death, for the destruction of Israel from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, means all the Jews to be killed, which is also the goal for Hamas. For every one Israeli being released, one innocent baby, mother, father, grandmother, grandfather being released, who was taken hostage inside their own home, Israel has to release security prisoners. 1 for 3. That's how much the Israelis value life. They are willing to release 3 evil terrorists or terrorist sympathizer security prisoners in order to get one precious grandmother home. One precious mother home. But we have to watch that they are being released out to Judea and Samaria with hundreds of flags for Hamas, celebrating the attack that took place, celebrating the murder of Jews, calling for more of murdering the Jewish people, welcoming these terrorists like they were some sort of a rock star, which they are to them. It's unbelievable. These terrorists, some of them have committed terror attacks, but the reason why they're being released now is because they didn't kill anyone, but they injured numerous people in shooting attacks, in stabbing attacks, and they are now being released, coming home, becoming glorified. But Israel is doing this because we still have babies held captive. 10-month-old Kefir with his brother and his young mother and father are still held captive inside the Gaza Strip. And Hamas is using them as bargaining chips. They were held with Islamic Jihad, moved back to Hamas. So a 10-month-old baby has now been held captive inside the Gaza Strip for more than 50 days. And now we hear about the condition. There's no shower, there's barely any food, people are sleeping on the ground. Pray for Israel for such a time as this. Consider yourself blessed. If you know where your children are, if you can kiss your children goodnight, consider yourself blessed. If your husband is coming home from work today, even if you have to pick up his dirty socks, consider yourself blessed. If you have a wife and she burned the dinner and it didn't taste as good as you wanted it to taste, consider yourself blessed that you have a wife who is home and she's not held captive by evil monster terrorists who just slaughtered 1,200 people, gang raped people and teenagers, burned children alive. There are people that will never be identified because their bodies were so mutilated or they were burned to nothing. They can't be identified. So you consider yourself blessed and don't criticize your husband, your wife, your children for something as simple as dirty socks or running late. You just consider yourself blessed if you have your children with you and your spouse with you. For such a time as this, we will always stand with Israel, speak up for Israel, arrange pro-Israel demonstrations and rallies around the world, because let me tell you something, Israel is watching. Israel is watching. They can't see that you are sitting in your house and praying. They can see when people are out in the streets. And let's face it, the other side is very active. Hundreds of thousands are out on the streets calling for the destructions of the Jewish people. This is a defining moment in world history, just like the Second World War was. And we are watching. Israel is watching. I am watching. Who are our friends? Who is doing something? Because Not doing anything is not an option. If you don't do anything, you have made your choice. This is a time where you can't stay silent. This is a time where you need to get up again, get active. That also includes, for instance, I just saw again inaccurate news on CNN about what's happening in Gaza, or the people being released. They're innocent teenagers. No, they're terrorists. They stab people. When you see something like that, that's where you can do something. That's where you can go and make a difference. I see, for one time, there was a post standing up for Israel on a CNN post. There's 2,000 coming against Israel, spreading lies and indictment against Israel or the Israeli army. Do something. Wake up. Speak up. As a private person, as a family, and especially the churches. Where are the churches? This is especially a defining moment for you. If you choose to stand with the nation that God has called his own, if you choose to stand with the nation that God singled out as the only Jewish nation, the nation that brought a Messiah to be a blessing to the world. You think about that, as many of you are already now preparing for Christmas holiday. The Jewish people are in dungeons and are in cages inside the Gaza Strip, including a 10-month-old baby now for almost 2 months. You cannot stay quiet. Consider yourself blessed if you can go to sleep tonight and your husband, your wife, and your children are in the safety of your own home. Bye.